Welcome back to another episode of Get Hooked.
It's March already. Wasn't it just March?
It was, but I think we've been inside the house for a whole year. So I think that this year went by. Well, it's weird, right? Because I want to say it went by fast, but it did not go by fast. But so many things happened this year that I can't believe it's March. Yeah. But the great thing about March is that it's Women's History Month.
Really? I actually did not know that.
Shame, Dennis. Shame.
I know March 8th is International Women's Day. I didn't know we had a whole month dedicated. I think it's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it is cool, right? Yeah. So what I love about it is that this episode, we are going to be dedicating it to the achievements of women throughout history and around the globe. So I'm super excited about that. And yeah, I just love talking about that because I think it's really cool. All the contributions that women have made, just in general. I think there's so much to it. I love talking about this because there's the Katherine Johnsons of the world who, without her, we never would have made it to the moon. There is Sojourner Truth, who I know a lot of women don't really, or women, people in general don't really know who she is, but she was an African-American evangelist, abolitionist, author, women's rights activist. There's Abigail Adams. She fought for education of women and abolishing slavery. Someone a little bit more current, Meg Whitman, huge in the tech scene. She is someone who, have you heard of Meg Whitman?
I have not. What do we know about Meg Whitman?
Okay, so Meg Whitman, she's huge on the tech scene. She is credited with turning around eBay and making huge changes at Hewlett Packard. So what she's currently doing is she's leading the new streaming platform called Quibi. Have you heard of Quibi?
I have.
You have, yeah. So they're making like those really like short, like new movies. And
there's so many great women have come through the tech industry. And again, going back to Katherine Johnson, I would call her the original woman in tech, I guess.
Yes, one of them.
One of the original women in tech, yes. It's amazing to think about how these gigantic computing systems and what even NASA and the government and all these big corporations were selling were these gigantic processing computers, and really it was a group of brilliant women standing behind those machines, crunching numbers and making sure everything was exact and what it needed to be. It's an amazing story.
Yeah. And it's always interesting how you hear about like the Neil Armstrongs and all the men, during the times of, and like even the Frederick Douglasses and, the Martin Luther Kings, and you hear about the men during these times, but it's rare that you hear about the women during these times that have actually contributed so much to the success of the movement. So we definitely wanted to discuss and bring up and highlight all the contributions that these women have made. And of course, how that plays into the towing industry, because there are so many women.
I see what you did there.
So of course we wanted to highlight some of the major contributions of women in this towing industry. We've put together a group of women in this industry who are doing wonderful things. They're fierce, fantastic women who have not only progressed this industry leaps and bounds, but they're movers and shakers who are making changes every single day to really move the needle forward for this entire industry. It's not just their companies, it's not just their operators, not just their own operations, not even just in their states. They're making changes for the entire industry. But I just have a quick question for you, and this is like a trivia question for you, Dennis. I want to see if you know. What percentage of women do you think make up the tow truck industry right now out of operators?
If I had to guess, I would assume that there's probably about between 3.5 and 4 million tow truck drivers on the road from some of the last studies that I've read.
Okay,
I'd say
that is correct.
I'd say less than 2% were women.
That is false.
False? Okay.
That is Dwight
Maybe we
False.
can edit a buzzer in there somewhere.
That is Dwight from The Office False. No,
Okay.
But very close. So from that last stat, it's actually 6% of them are women. Now,
6%. Okay.
Yes, I am not even going to act like I am anywhere near Katherine Johnson because I am not a mathematician and I will not claim to be. I'm going to try to get that number for you, but 6% of them are women. So I guess, I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think only close to 10% of that, it's only increased to about 10% as of today.
The industry that I'm familiar with, the towing industry that I grew up in, there have always been women involved in the towing industry. Mm-hmm. They may not have always been at the forefront. They may not be the folks out in the trucks, but at least
like changing the tire, winching out the car, but
jump starting your Jeep when it dies.
Hey, I know how to jumpstart my Jeep now. Okay?
I know, and
which, by the way, I still don't know how to change that tire, but I know how to jumpstart my Jeep. Okay.
But you look at the office personnel and really the backbone staff of the towing world, and there's at least 25% of women in the office, keeping the books, running the business. In the industry I grew up in, there's always been women involved, and it was wives, mothers of the drivers, and they really were not only the backbone, but in a lot of cases the brains of the industry, the brains of the company.
You really make such a good point, because literally every time I've not every time, but for the majority of the time, and I will be so confident when I say 90 to 95% of the time I've called any type of tow operation, and I've spoken to someone in the office, it's been a woman on the phone that's answered for dispatch, as an office manager. So, and it's always been someone who's handled either someone who's handled, that type of role in the office, someone who's handled the business side of it. So it's really interesting to me, because when it comes down to how many women are in this industry, the 6%, it's like the 6% of the operators are women, but behind the scenes, I'm like, there's a lot of women in this industry that are really taking care of the business.
And I'll say more so within the last maybe 5 or 6 years, women being on the front lines that number has increased, at least from what I've seen. There's definitely more women out on the road in the truck actually doing the dirty work these days. We see it all the time. Our friends over at Pink Hookers, we have a few of our guests, Melisa Gaglione. We have plenty of people in this industry. Karrie Fogg from Fred's Towing, that we're going to be bringing on in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty
Ricky
of
Tapp
women
from Central Iowa Towing. Yeah.
Plenty of women in this industry that are at the forefront now and not hiding behind the scenes anymore. There's the WTRAA Association, the Women's Towing Recovery Association of America. There's Gay Rochester. She's the president. We're going to maybe talk about her in a few minutes as well. But there are women that are now at the forefront of this business. And I mean, dare I say, they are just as competent as men. Shocking.
Absolutely. Of course, we always talk about Shelly Hawkins, amazing woman. And we, of course, one of our favorite people in this industry, Ms. Angela Roper Barnett. Can't forget her.
Literally cannot forget about her. She won't let you. No, we love her.
Gotta love her, But without further ado, why don't we go ahead and hear from some pretty incredible tow industry women to hear their perspectives. Let's bring the ladies on.
Cool. Let's jump into this.
Yeah. So in honor of Women's History Month, we thought we'd dedicate an entire Get Hooked podcast to highlight the pivotal roles women have played in the towing industry. And of course, we have some amazing women here who are just contributed so much to the towing industry. And we're just looking forward to highlighting some of the amazing contributions. And of course, we brought to you some leaders in their own right. So we just definitely want to introduce them first, and then we'll go around. So let's kick it off. Why don't you ladies go ahead and introduce yourselves? Let's go ahead and start with Karrie. Karrie, introduce yourself, and then we'll take it over to Melisa.
My name is Karrie Fogg, and I'm the Vice President of Operations with Fred's Towing and Transport with our home office out of Henderson, North Carolina.
Awesome. And Melisa?
Hi, my name is Melisa, and I'm the President of Safety for Her. We are located out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Welcome back, Melisa.
Thank you.
Yes. And Ricky?
I am from Central Iowa. My husband and I own Central Iowa Towing in Ames, and we have a location in Des Moines as well.
Awesome. Yes. Well, obviously, we wanted you ladies to come on today and just share with us your amazing story. And so, Ricky, we definitely want to start with you and tell us, how did you get started in this industry, and tell us a little bit of your background.
Sure. My husband has actually worked in the towing industry since high school. He explored other options for jobs, but decided towing was where his passion is. In 2014, we decided to buy our first tow truck and see where it took us. Upon buying our first truck, came quitting his full-time job, focusing on running our business. Within 1 year, we exceeded 5 trucks, 4 employees. In 2015, I quit my full-time job, started working in our office, dispatching, stuff like that, managing our accounts. Off and on throughout the last 4 years, I've been in and out of the office, but I manage one of our 3 locations currently. We own 3 locations, have a total of 64 trucks and 48 employees.
Whew.
Wow.
64 trucks.
Yeah.
I'm like 64 trucks. And I'm sorry, say that number again. How many employees?
48.
That's a
48.
lot of personalities.
Yes. Yes, it is.
How do you manage all of that on a daily basis? How do you manage handling personalities and locations and truck maintenance and a family on a daily basis?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have, including myself, we have a couple other managers that we each have our own department. Like I manage the accounts, obviously my home life. And then we have another guy that manages our Des Moines location. And then another guy, he kind of works side by side with me, doing pretty much all the in between, the truck maintenance. And then we have a mechanic as well. So just dividing out the jobs between everybody kind of makes it keep going.
Yeah, that's something you don't run into as much as maybe we should these days in this industry, is people delegating to managers. My experience, and Karrie, Ricky, you guys can pipe in here. But what I've seen is that there's always almost a fear of giving control of a company to people that aren't owners. So that sometimes can be a roadblock that companies run into.
No, I'm saying, how do you think your role as a tow business owner has shaped the reality that women are vital to the progression of this industry?
I believe we are good multitaskers, I should say. There's nothing that, when a call comes in or something, I'm pretty good about if another thing happens in the time being to go back to that. I have 4 children, so kind of balancing all those employees or all my kids, they kind of go hand in hand, I guess. I'm constantly doing something for all 4 of them. So I don't know, they just kind of go hand in hand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'd like to, ask Karrie a few questions as well. Because I know you, Karrie, with you managing Fred's Towing as well, you see kind of on the technology side of things. One of the things I want to know, and it's funny because one of our mutual friends, Shelly, says sometimes the office can be like running it can be like a tornado of chaos. It's not easy to navigate all facets of the business. And so one of the things I want to know is, what does it take to keep your crew, from your family to the operators, and kind of in alignment with that? As a leader, how do you maintain your balance?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I came into the towing industry back in 2012. My husband is Fred, and he started the business back in 1989 when he came out of high school. So when I came in 2012, I had to learn everything from ground up, like Ricky did. And when you're a female coming into the industry, you just want to reach out and grab everything that you could possibly grab onto to help you find a stable ground and help you teach, learn everything. And when the digital world came out, as far as having the tracking systems on the trucks, as far as having tow books, I mean, it made things, I would say, at least 90% less hectic in the towing industry.
That was actually going to be my next question. I was going to ask, how do you feel how technology has helped you transform the business, and those new tools and new technological tools that are out there that maybe weren't there 5 or 6 or 7 years ago?
I mean, I think it's helped us grow the industry 110%. If something as minute as like having the tracking devices on your trucks. I mean, I remember a situation that we had, it was probably back in 2013. I received a phone call from a local PD telling me that they were going to charge my company with a hit and run and destruction of property. And I was just mind blown. I was like, well, what are you talking about? And they said that one of my lowboy trucks had came in and curbed the sidewalk and tore the sidewalk up that they had just replaced, and they were going to charge us for it. So I was like, okay, well, what time was this supposedly happen when you received the call? But due to the fact that we had the tracking system on the trucks, I could go back and pinpoint the crumb snatches, what they call them, where it tells you what time the truck actually came through. I printed it up and sent it to them, and then I got a phone call back saying, they apologized to me. But in the towing industry, our trucks are big. So they're going to be eye catchers to everybody. So they just assumed, oh, it was the last big truck that went through here. That was the last truck they remembered.
The big flashy truck with the shiny paint job and all the extras on it. Yeah, they look like they might have some money. Let's go after
the
those
easy
guys.
target.
Yeah. So I mean, I think with technology, the way that the tracking devices, the GPS systems that we have, it keeps you more up to date on your drivers, how their driving skills are. Hard brakes, what they're doing to your trucks. Because as business owners, your trucks are your investments. That's your livelihood. So you want to make sure that you're trusting somebody who's going to drive your truck and take care of it like you would. And then with the tow book, we use tow book, but I mean, with the digital dispatching, it's made things just completely 100%, off the office app. The drivers, they're checking en route, updating customers, so you're not having, upset customers by the time they get out there. You're seeing what times calls were completed, so you can keep your customers updated, letting them know what time the driver arrived, what time they completed it. It's the digital world has just helped, to me, it's helped the towing industry just grow phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, any one of you can answer this question. I think, Dennis, you probably have seen this as well, since you've had experience growing up in the truck with your dad. But I've always wondered, how has technology in the tow trucks changed over the last 20 years in this industry, from, the mechanical wrecker to hydraulics? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. 20, 30, 40 years or so, ago, we had mechanical trucks. We had hoist trucks. I remember hand crank 3-poles, really, really old school equipment. But, not just the change from mechanical to hydraulic wreckers. We have things like self-loaders that are only 20, 25 years old. We have rotator technology. I know the big news in the industry this week, everybody was talking about, do you need a rotator to recover a car? No, you don't need a rotator to recover a car, but sometimes it's the right piece of equipment for the right job.
Yeah. I just think it's amazing that there's so many women out there in this industry that have not only pioneered some of these changes, but that you women specifically on this call have led some of the changes within your organization. And I kind of want to transition to Melisa now, because Melisa, last time you were on the show, you obviously you're president of your own company, not just your tow company, but your fashion line, Safety for Her. And you mentioned that the reason, the desire to even start your own line, is because you saw a need to find safety apparel in your size. You went out there, you needed to find safety regulated safety apparel, but you couldn't find it in your size. And then also that you just couldn't find it because you wanted to wear something that was fashionable, something that was cute while you're on the road. And I was like, hey, I feel you on that, because who wants to go to work and not feel cute in what they wear? So one of my questions is, when you decided to make that transition, or to decide to hop into business for yourself, who were your allies in the industry, and how did they support you in your venture?
You know what? Honestly, I was newer to the industry then, because like Karrie and Ricky, my fiance started our towing company in '99. Our main focus is we do private property. I came in back end in 2014. My back end was sales and real estate. So I had to learn everything, kind of just as Karrie mentioned, I didn't know anything about this industry. So I guess really, when you ask me about allies, I would say, obviously my fiance, but, coming out into the world new. The first time I launched it was in April of 2019 at the Florida Tow Show. And actually a funny story, I totally was getting trashed for it because nobody's ever, seen anything like this. And actually, Karrie was the one that went to bat for me on social media when a couple guys were just like totally saying all this stuff. And, that was my first like eye-opening. I always knew it was male dominated. I always knew that, it was kind of a little bit rougher than normal, which is fine with me. I know how to take those hits, but Karrie actually really came in and kind of really shut a lot of people down for me because she is known and people know that she speaks her mind. And, that's just another thing of other women in the industry just supporting each other.
That is so amazing. So it's funny because so you're based in Wisconsin and Karrie, you're based in North Carolina. So it was like you had somebody support all the way on the others, almost on the other side of the country, who really stepped up and said, hey, like this is someone who is doing something amazing and we need to show support. And gosh, that's such an amazing story. And I love to hear that you guys, did you guys know each other before that? Or was it just you saw the need to step in to show support for her?
I met Melisa at the Florida Toe Show. And when I saw her line, I was just drawn to it. And the funny thing is, I know she remembers me from the Florida Toe Show because at the time I had broke my foot. So I had a little scooter. And of course, us women, we got to be fashionable. So I had our company logo sticker put on my boot so that even though I was riding around, everybody knew who I was still with. And, it's true. What she's doing, I mean, for the women in this industry, I mean, that's the number one thing that you have the most trouble with. Finding safety vests, finding, pants, safety apparel that, is not 10 sizes too big for you. That's not, you're constantly having to pull your pants up when you're on a wreck scene. So I immediately was drawn to her. And, it was kind of just an instant thing. I followed her on Facebook, would share the post and everything. And that night, this guy just kept badging her and badging her and badging her. And I was like, you don't even know what she's doing for this industry. Because, I mean, I don't think people realize how many females that are in this industry now, let alone whether you help your husband run the business or whether you're a driver yourself, or you work as an office manager or dispatcher, but this is a male dominant industry. And females, if you're going to be in this industry, my favorite saying I always have is, I'm not coming to sit at the poker table unless I know I have a winning hand. And it's sad to say, but for us females, you have to have a winning hand in this industry when you go up against other people. And like I said, I just came into it in 2012, and my husband taught me a lot. And I've had a lot of wonderful female role models. Gay Rochester, Belinda from Greensboro, they kind of took me under my wing. They're both from North Carolina. So, I mean, I learned a lot from them. And I knew Melisa was starting out, and I was like, no, you're not going to bash her for doing something good for us,
I love to hear this story. And just to throw it out there, there's an estimated 3.5 million tow truck operators in this industry. And to date, I believe there's an estimated, as of 2017, I think there was only about 6% of them were women. And so maybe to date, there's about like 10% as of 2021. I don't know if there's, been an updated stat, but maybe, there's about 10% because every day there's new women, joining in this industry. And I love to hear, and I just love to hear that story because I think it's so necessary to hear that, yes, women do need to, step up for one another. And I love that you mentioned that you have mentors like Belinda Harris and Gay Rochester, because I do think that, they're doing amazing work. And I love that you brought them up because, Gay Rochester, I think she's amazing. She's been in the industry over 37 years. And, CEO of INA Towing, and, she's done so much for this industry. And there's so many other women in this industry, Linda Unroe out in New Mexico, and, just Cynthia Martin. I mean, I could just go on about several women in this industry who've done amazing things, but I'd love to hear that you met her out in at the Florida Tow Show on a scooter like that. Those are great stories to hear.
I was at that show. That was a great, it was a nice weekend.
and it's funny because and I'm sure you ladies, obviously know Shelly Hawkins, and I met Shelly the Midwest Toe Association toe show. And I won't get into too many details, but it was at a luncheon, and there was a fashion show, a quote unquote fashion show. There were some things happening there. We won't go too deep into that, but if you're a lady and you were at that luncheon, we'll leave it there. But yeah, and I've been witness of the camaraderie and the family and the support that women in this industry show one another. And so I love to hear that. And I think that's amazing. And it's so necessary. So necessary. So one of the things that I always wonder is, what do you think is on the horizon for women in this industry? Do you think there's more women out there doing what Melisa is currently doing, what you are currently doing, Karrie?
I hope so.
Yeah, one of the recurring themes we talk about on the show all the time is dragging the industry kicking and screaming into the 21st century sometimes, so to speak. It's an industry that has not always been adaptive to new ways of thinking. Again, back to the conversations of what equipment to use and what types of equipment is required to complete a job. Yes, you can absolutely go out and do something with an old Holmes wrecker, and an old Holmes 750 is going to get the job done most of the time. But there are easier ways of doing things, and there's new tech in the office. And 20 years ago, maybe you didn't need a computer to run your office. Now you do. And it's the sentiment that, like Yvonne mentioned, 6 to 10% of 3.5 million tow truck drivers are women. I would love to see that stat come up. We're in an industry with a driver shortage right now. There are untapped resources. There's potential out there to bring women into this industry and bring the industry up along with other surrounding industries like Melissa's line services, now construction industries and other exterior industries too that are peripheral to us.
I think that a lot more women are being recognized and stepping into roles, just like Karrie said, she runs operations. Same thing I do on my normal day-to-day outside of safety for her. Our specialty, like I said, is private property. That's a very uncommon tapped area for a woman to be in as well. I think women are getting recognized more for our ability to multitask, and I think we're more open to change. So I think that the industry is shifting and accepting that more. And just as much as they're shifting, we use Towbook too at all of our companies. And it's the same thing. It's the digital dispatching. It's the ability for the driver to, communicate with the customer. It's not just one dispatcher and one person. So I think the industry as a whole, even in the trucking industry, they're doing the same thing, shifting with, bringing in women and bringing in new technology.
Yeah, I'll say if there was no room for improvement in the industry, there wouldn't be companies like HONK and even our competitors out there in this world, in this space, that are showing improvement. We're showing better ETAs, faster dispatch times. Things like that can be improved by using technology and by using resources that maybe have never been used before. And people are resources too. That's another conversation we have here all the time. And there are hundreds of thousands of women in this industry, and I feel good recognizing them and using a platform like this to talk about that and maybe bring that to light. And using the word stigma kind of gets thrown around a lot, but I don't think there should be a stigma that women can't drive trucks. There's no reason for that perception to exist anymore.
Absolutely. I think for the past 100 years, women have fought to erase some of those stigmas and the proverbial, glass ceiling. You know what I mean? There's so many cracks in it that at this point it should be, there shouldn't even be one. There's so many contributions that women, not even just inside of the towing industry, but across the nation, around the world, as a whole. Without those contributions, things would fall apart. We wouldn't even made it to the moon without the Katherine Johnsons of the world. So there's something to be said for women in general.
The industry that I grew up in, while it may have been a male-dominated industry and there may have been more men in tow trucks, women were always the backbone of the business. It was always, somebody's wife or somebody's mom running the show, being the real brains of the operation, as we would say. But it's nice to see that behind the scenes is now changing to bringing powerful women like Karrie and Melisa and Ricky and Gay and all these other women to the spotlight and really showing them that they're part of the club too. It's not just a boys' club anymore. It is a club.
I think the misconception, though, that, I would say that maybe some women would take coming in the industry now, it's no secret. You definitely have to have some thick skin. It's not, it's kind of like almost, the big brother syndrome where, they'll mess with you and then nobody else can mess with you, but they just do it just to kind of like take you in. That's their way of showing. But I think that women don't need to be as aggressive or dominating as a man. I think that we do need the other side of, the compassion, the understanding, kind of that motherly side. You have to have both, but I think the misconception is you have to be, so overbearing, when that's not really what it needs. Because as you see, that's like Dennis was saying, the back ends of the brains were always the women, the moms, and whoever. And that is coming to the forefront now and being recognized of how important women are and what role we really play in, keeping everything level-headed.
Melisa, how does that softer approach translate to the PPI world?
I will say I'm not a crier at all, but it's definitely not something that you'd be soft-hearted about. I think what helps me as a woman is the multitasking, talking to my guys, telling them, directing them. Nobody likes to admit it, but, some of these guys a little bit are emotional. So it's almost like a counseling session. You kind of just learn how to navigate through things. It's definitely, something that you don't learn overnight, because I've had to very much learn how to, take somebody yelling at me and not taking it personal, let's just say, or being affected by that. And I think that once you kind of can understand that and use that with your other strengths, you can really navigate through and, find solutions and kind of work through any issues you have.
This is a question I'd like to just ask to the group, and anybody who has an opinion on this, please feel free to open up and jump in. But, what is the one thing that you wish women in this industry could do or see or change that is not currently happening today?
I'd say with Karrie and myself, we support each other. There's a lot of other women, but I think there's a lot of other women that are kind of a little bit arm's length from you on it. I think we need to come together a little bit more. When I compare it to other industries, I actually, work in and see. I think we need to work together a little bit more to grab each other and kind of push together as women.
I think we divide ourselves more than we come together.
Yep.
In what ways?
I wouldn't say for me, because I love them. That's where I learn my most stuff. But just like, for instance, you sit here and say, the two shows that I've been to that have the women's luncheon, is the Midwest and the Florida tow show. To me, as a female, that's where I learn. I don't learn standing out there looking at the trucks or anything. If I sit down at a table of women and I meet a lady who's from South Dakota, and we're just in general conversation talking about different things with the industry, and she says, oh, well, hey, we tried this and it's working out for us. Well, when I come back home, I'm going to look into that, because that's how I learn. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of the females, I don't know if they're intimidated by other females or what, but I don't think a lot of them utilize some of the things that are available to us. I sit there and look, the WTRAA, how many members does it really have? That's a good outlet for us females. I'll be honest with you, I was kind of embarrassed when I joined it, because I sat there and looked, and I know how many towing companies we have in North Carolina, and it was only maybe like 10 members. So I sometimes think that we don't utilize the resources that are actually there for us.
Right.
And that's a symptom of an issue, that we see, I think, across the industry as a whole, is we don't use resources available to us. And obviously when you're dealing with a smaller group of people, it's more noticeable when again, that 6 to 10% of the industry is women. It's the same thing that we see, across the industry, though. People don't take advantage of their state associations or their local or even, TRA or anything like that. And it's a common problem within the industry as a whole, and just seeing it magnified at that level can maybe put some perspective on it.
Yeah, absolutely. What encouragement will you give to women going forward? What are some of the things that you would like to see change?
Well, our youngest daughter, she's a senior in high school right now, and she's fixing to graduate. And she has joined in the business a lot more than what she previously has. And, the one thing that I try to teach her, she goes on recovery jobs. She's going to hazmat training, and she's got a heavy duty recovery class that she's going to. But I still tell her it's still okay for you to be a girl. You still want to put your makeup on to go to a rec scene, you put your makeup on. You keep your nails done. It's even though this is a male dominant industry, we're still okay to be females.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do too. I think that's the misconception, because even when I go and I meet, with different accounts, even before I had safety for her, I would go and I'd walk in and I'm like, hi, I'm here. And they're like, you're the towing girl? And I'm like, yeah, what did I need to be? I think it's just like such a perception people have. And I'm like, it kind of amazes me. It does, but it doesn't now that I'm in the industry. When I first started, I was like, yeah, I didn't really, grasp on. I just think, just to backtrack even on what Karrie was saying about our associations and about certain things. I don't really think we push the voice enough.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think there's some, sometimes you need new blood to move things forward. And I think that there's a lot of, people set in their ways of, everything's went digital, everything's went this. And I think it scares some people to do that. But I think in order for us to move together as a unit and do new things and make our voices heard, we could, find a way to do that makes everybody comfortable. Because I go to the same thing. I go to the luncheons. I go to everything. People are nice, but you don't really see. There's maybe I don't know, Karrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 2 or 3 women that are actually in the business, working in the industry at these women's luncheons, and everybody else is just they're like, oh, my husband tows. I don't know what goes on in the industry, which is fine, which is great because you're still part of it. You want to push forward to have more of these other women come forward, to have more of a diverse bunch in a group.
There's thousands of women out there that maybe, don't get a chance to attend these shows and don't get a chance to really join these groups and these discussions. So that's why we're trying to foster some of this conversation here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When I joined the industry, I realized, like you were saying, Melissa, there's a smaller group of women that actually are operators or have a deeper sense of understanding of the industry versus who are actually, spouses of operators or tow business owners, So when I spy women like, the owners and operators of Pink Hookers Towers out in Delaware, who are, the owners and operators of their business. And it's just, it's them. And then they also have a few operators that work for them, but, they pioneered their business and they decided to hop in and be, the entirety of their business. And I was just in awe because I'm like, these women didn't look to men to start their business. They didn't look to men to be, the pivotal thing in their business. They didn't even, ask men to help them start. They decided that this is what they wanted to do. And they jumped at it. And I thought, wow, that's amazing, because especially in this male dominated industry, I know that when they show up, and I had a conversation with them, when they show up on scene, yeah, sometimes, they still get the looks, but they love the ability to turn that look around, or and like, yeah, I can do this work. And, and it's almost like they love proving their ability and their capability to do the work that they desire to do. And I love that. I love that so much for them. And I think it's so great to have people supporting that in this industry. And, and then knowing, of course, and they were one of the winners of our Mother's Day giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
And so they won Melissa, one of your leggings, and some of your apparel and stuff, which they love still. So I think it's just, it's great to see more stories like that coming out. I remember reading a thread on, I believe it's Toe 411, Dennis, and it was just hundreds and hundreds of stories from toe business owners talking about how some of their best operators were women. And it was just all about women in the towing industry. And so I think that there are places that really do highlight the contributions that tow operators and then women in general just have contributed to this industry. And if you go out there and you search for it, you'll find it. But I do agree with what both you, Melissa, and Karrie have been saying, is like, we do need to support one another and seek more opportunities to kind of turn the notch up, turn the heat up on the diversity of what that support looks like in this industry, for sure.
And I mean, even we have the awards at Baltimore every year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like a huge place to me, where women could be, featured, or awards for different things. Not just, we got to move forward and open up diversity a little bit more within our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what does that progress look like? Let's say in 5 years, what would you like to see happen in 5 years in this industry? What is, like, in a best case scenario, what would you guys like to see for women?
I think that I would like to see more of a stronger towing association for women. I would like us to be a little bit more loud, a little bit more present, even from a website, from social media sense. I would like women to get recognized at awards, that we have also us interact and be more present within our tow shows. They're huge. It's a great opportunity, but, I think we're very segregated, except for, the handful that are very pivotal women in the industry. And, we all work with each other and, support each other. Like, I have so much support now from the male side from when I started. It's just, I'm kind of looking for that female side, that female side of it. And I just wonder, like, really what is stopping us from doing that?
You both bring so much to the table. And so I know we want to see so much for women. And I know it's going to take a mental shift. I mean, I even asked you the question and I said, what do you guys want to see? And I'm like, ladies, what do you ladies want to see? So I know it's going to take,
I was not going to call you out for that at all.
Right. I had to call myself out because I'm like, but I do it on a daily basis. And I realize sometimes it's even, it's a mental thing. So, I mean, I'd love to see 40 to 50% women operators out there, but even not even just on the women's side, because it is an entire industry. And like you said, less segregation, more integration. So, and at the end of the day, it's a family thing. This is such a family oriented business, that yes, it's time for women to shine too, but also, it's about families working together. And yes, we want women, we want the industry as a whole to be more diverse, and we want women to really have their day, but as a whole, we want the industry to progress. So what would you want to see in 5 years for the industry as a whole?
I think the industry has changed so much already. It's like, I remember I was telling somebody the other week, everybody's persona and the perception that they had of the towing industry, just say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that towers were sloppy or uneducated. It really didn't take a lot for you to be a tower. And I think with the industry evolving the way that it has, I think people now are really seeing that, no, the towing industry is not the same that it was 20, 25 years ago. I think with the way the technology is growing and the way that the world is now, I think 5 years from now, the one thing that's not changing is the transportation industry. So I think moving forward, you're going to see maybe 5-10 years from now, you're going to see a very, very big boom for towing industries. just for the simple fact that, yeah, a lot of things are changing in the world right now. But I mean, I know in my area, even when we had the pandemic hit, the towing industry didn't stop because the trucks still had to move, loads still had to be delivered. So I think that's the one thing that we're not going to see change. I think that it's going to progress even more. So you're going to have to utilize more people to try to retain as staff. And the way that women are now, you have so many women getting more in, welders, mechanics. I think that you're just going to have to outsource. And I think women, they're growing more towards these fields, as welders, mechanics, operators. So I think we're going to see a change in that.
Yeah, absolutely. In that moment, it reminded me of Rosie the Riveter, out of the 40s, when the war was here and there was so much that had to change for the quote unquote woman of that time and the roles that she had to play, where she had to take on some of the more traditionally male dominated roles, and then, fast forward to now, and we're kind of making a boom in that. And especially with some of the new sleek self-driving tech forward cars now that are happening, towing professionals are definitely a lot more tech savvy, and we're getting more respect because of the industries that are out there, the electric vehicles that are we're transitioning to, in California, some of the laws that are changing that are requiring more electric vehicle use. And I can tell you, with HONK, some of the diversity and some of our clientele and some of the jobs, and so it's interesting to see some of the changes that are happening out there. And so I know for sure, like you said, the transportation industry is continuing to go on. There might be some diversity for sure in some of the jobs that happen, that are out there, but the industry is still going to be there. And so, it's all in how you look at it and prepare to make the shift with it and stay strong. Karrie, you said something earlier and it just made me think of like Muhammad Ali and his daughter Layla Ali. And I was just like, she's like, it doesn't get much tougher than that, right? You're in a boxing ring, but you have your nails done and your makeup done, right? And I'm just like, these women do such tough jobs and with demanding hours and workload, but you do it with a face of makeup and your nails done and you're beautiful, and you should feel great as a woman doing it and being as beautiful as you want to be and as womanly as you want to be, but you can still be as strong as you can. So I'm so excited for the future of this industry, and I'm sure women will be a part of it and as much as we want to be. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us on today. You have just shared with us so much, and we look forward to what the industry is going to be looking like in the next few years. Thank you so much, both of you, for your accomplishments and for what you do and for leading the next generation. And we look forward to what you'll do in the future.
And thank you all for joining us in a great conversation. And like Yvonne said, I'm excited for the futures of this industry as well. And I know women will be a part of it because they already are. And that number is not getting any smaller anytime soon. Hopefully we can keep growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great group of individuals that joined us. That's the panel. That was an excellent panel.
It really was.
I love these roundtables that we're doing now. It's a lot of fun.
It is. It really is. Such a great story from all of them, and just loved hearing the support that they give each other, that we give each other. Love hearing the connection that's made from coast to coast, and I'm really looking forward to the changes and the progression that's going to happen in this industry.
Yeah, I love hearing the stories of women learning from other women, and in general, operators learning from other operators. Collaboration in this industry is important, and it's even more important when there's such a small number of women in the industry, and we can continue to promote diversity and continue to grow this industry and maybe solve some of our issues like driver shortages or even insurance rates and insurance issues by maybe bringing in some more women into the industry and getting them more involved with the day-to-day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like Melisa said, I really hope to see that in the next few years. I really do hope to see more women winning awards and seeing more integration of men and women working together in this industry to really progress things, and people working together to prepare themselves for the future of the transportation industry. I would love to see, like Melisa said, I would love to see more men and women working together for the progression of this industry. More women winning awards at these tow shows, more women learning from other women, supporting one another.
Yeah, that's a great point. Melisa and Karrie both made is being able to reach out across the country and support, and in this case, other women, but generally speaking, support other operators and other people who are doing right in this business and trying to advance this industry. That support needs to be there all around, and especially, like I said, from women who are such a minority in the industry right now. But that number is growing, and that number is growing rapidly. We can all learn from looking at women in history and the women on our panel, at these fierce and fantastic women out there, and even within our own organization. Shout out to you, and shout out to Jackie, our producer, and everybody knows our very own Shelly Hawkins, and there are quite a few other amazing women in this organization as well that absolutely should be supported and celebrated. Supported and celebrated. Supported and celebrated.
Absolutely. And on top of that, they brought up a good point. If you are a woman and you're in this industry, you're a tow business owner or an operator, look up WTRAA. If you feel led to, join the organization. They have an amazing scholarship fund. Take a look at it, educate yourselves. Let's support one another. Let's come together and support one another in this industry. Thank you for listening to the episode. As always, happy International Women's Day to all women out there.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Honk for Help on just about every platform imaginable. And stay tuned for the next episode of
Get Hooked.
I'm not even trying this time.